Shalom, Pastor Tahar coming back at you with this truth, giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem and Yahushua by Hashem Kakwadash. There's going to be a quick lesson, unless the Lord jump on me, Yahweh by Hashem and Yahushua jump on me to make it a long lesson. But I see it as being a quick lesson. Let's see where the Spirit takes me. Anyway, I'm going to entitle this video Daniel chapter 11, verses 2 to 4. We can actually start at 1, but the key verses is the second, third, and fourth verse. I'm not going to go into the fifth verse. Anyway, we had an impromptu test when we close the camp. I say, I'm known for that. I question brothers on scriptures, see how fast their hands go up, and then I clown them sometime, and I clowned them last night. So I said, open up your scriptures, your smartphones, to your scriptures, and I want you to go to Daniel 11, and we're going to read down from the first verse to the fourth verse. And when somebody read each verse, I would stop and say, well, what does that mean by a show of hands? And there was maybe at most 15%. I don't even say that many, maybe 10% put their hands up. Maybe another 10% put their hands up, but they were kind of reluctant. You can see it in their eyes. So I clowned them a little bit. I said, wait a minute, y'all don't know how to break this down. Y'all GMS, clown around, clown them a little bit. We're supposed to know the whole book, and especially the prophecies, because the prophecies, the main part of the book that's being manifested are the prophecies. I mean, you're supposed to know the book, of course, the history, the laws. You're supposed to know everything. You're supposed to have some understanding of the Hebrew and the Greek, because there's certain words in, let's say, the King James or any of the other translations where sometimes you have to go into the Hebrew if it's in the Old Testament. And sometimes, like in the book of Daniel, it doesn't say Hebrew, it says Syriac. It says, not Syriac, it says, the writing is Syriac. The characters are Syriac, but it's actually Amharic, which is, read it the same way that you read the Hebrew, but the characters are in the Syriac, not the what we call the Lashon Kodash, or Paleo Hebrew. They call it ancient Hebrew. Like, for example, the Moabite stone, the Mesha Stele. Look that up, Moabite stone. That was a stone that the king of Moab, which was named Mesha, praised his god. His god was Chihon, if I'm saying it right. Chihon, if I'm saying it right. He's praising his god about the fact that the Israelites were defeated, and he gave the credit to his God, and he actually mentions Yahweh's name. He also mentions King David's name, and he mentions it as King David, Malak, Dawayad, or Dawad. They would be in the blue letter, Dawad, which means beloved. And on that stone, like I said, the name of the Most High is there. If you go to the Moabite stone, Mesha Stele on Google, you put in the Moabite stone, God's name, and it'll highlight God's name. Or if you put in the Moabite stone, David's name, it'll highlight David's name in the ancient Hebrew. if you put in Israel, Moabite stone, the Israelites on the Moabite stone, they should highlight Yashar Allah. So the king of Moab obviously knew Hebrew in order for him to get somebody to put what they used, they carved into the stone, chiseled into the stone, and that's called by scholars cuneiform. Cuneiform, cuni means wedged, and form means writing. So what does it mean by wedged writing? Meaning they took a chisel and they chiseled it in the stone. That's where you get the saying, this was written in stone. Because back in the ancient world, they wrote things on stone. They didn't always write things on paper. They did write things on paper and parchment. You had the scrolls, but you also had things written in stone. The commandments were written in stone. So I pointed to certain brothers that break down certain verses, and the brothers, some of the brothers that did raise their hand, and I knew the brothers that normally put their hands up, I'll kind of say, oh, well, I know you know. They know who they are. So I pointed to a couple of different brothers, and they got it right. They got it. They were pretty much got it right. Yeah, one of the brothers, I'm not gonna mention his name, got it. It was totally on point. And now I'm gonna say this: that Apostle Gabar, when we left, he said, yeah, I kind of went off on it. I wasn't sure on a couple of the names, would show you that Apostle Gabar is honest. He's one of the apostles. Well, you should know everything is apostle. When you go through these prophetic scriptures, man, and you don't go through them, you kind of forget things. That includes me. That's why I always quiz those guys on these prophetic scriptures. Now, overall, for you other Israelites out there, nobody ever touches this. If you go back, if you're a former one Wester, Ariah never went into Daniel 11. Well, he did, but he pulled out, I believe, verse 35. Matter of fact, let me go to that. All right, verse 35 was one of the verses. Actually, verse 34. Okay, let me start at 32nd verse. Daniel 11:32. It says, he shall seduce with flattery those who violate the covenant, but the people who know their power shall stand firm and take action. What is that talking about? You can give me one name. And this is the only part that High Priest Ariah went into. He never went into the whole thing because they didn't know the whole breakdown. The Spirit didn't open their eyes to it. We broke this down years ago, and then we broke it down again on YouTube, but it kind of got lost when some of these sites were taken down. And this is not a thing where it's like an easy breakdown where you just put one name it on this verse. Well, this is this guy, and that's that guy. This particular, the way you interpret this one, you gotta know about maps, geography, biblical maps, certain dates. You got to know. You got certain key figures, but you got to mention other people that lived, that were contemporary with the key people in this chapter. Like in the New Testament, there's a place in the Middle East called Laodicea. Now, Laodicea is spoken about in Daniel the 11th chapter. Now, if you can go to the verse and tell me, break it down, you good. You good. Laodicea is a key name, at least as far as Daniel 11 goes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this, and I'm going to go back up to the second. I'm going to start the first verse and read to the fourth verse. Then I'm going to go to the commentary, which they got it right. But you can't rely on the commentary, because I can go to certain prophecies and they totally botch it. Like Daniel chapter 2, they totally botch it. They get the beginning of it, the first three kingdoms. With the fourth kingdom, they go off, and then the revised fourth kingdom, and don't even go to the commentary when it comes to Daniel chapter 7. I mean, they completely botch it up, but they get Babylon correct, Medo-Persians, and the Greeks. Then they get the Romans, but then the Romans are a two-part kingdom. Roman fell, then it came back into power. They don't get that, because if they really truly knew these prophecies, they would have to mention Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, the great city. So let me go to the 32nd verse, Daniel 11, verse 32. He shall seduce with flattery those who violate the covenant. Those that break the law, he's going to show them favor. But the people who know their power shall stand firm and take action. All you got to do is give me one name for the 32nd verse. It's more than one name, but one name should come to mind. And certain precepts should come to mind, especially the Apocrypha, 33rd verse. And those among the people who are wise shall make many understand. Though they shall fall by sword and flame, by captivity and plunder for some days. So there were battles that we lost and battles that we won. So it's a back and forth. And that's the reason why the man in the 32nd verse stood up. When they fall, they shall receive a little help. Okay, this is the revised, which is written differently. Let me do this. Let me click on this, and let me go to the King James, get a better understanding. Let me come down to the 32nd verse. This is in the King James. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall be corrupt by flatteries. But the people that's talking about Jakes that done sold out. They said, we'll break the covenant, just, take care of us. But the people that do know their power shall be strong and do exploits. 33rd verse. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. So it's a back and forth when you go into the Apocrypha, the Maccabee, first Maccabees, second Maccabees. Now, when they shall fall, the Israelites at that time, they shall be hoping with a little help. So what does that mean? You can give me two different answers. There's two right answers. You can give me one, or you can give me the other. Now, when they shall fall, they shall be hoping or helped with a little help but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge and to make them white or pure, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. So the Maccabees, he's got to be one of us. Let me read the 36th verse, and I'll come up to the first 4 verses. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself. Who is that talking about? And magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the most high of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. Matter of fact, let me read the rest of this. I'm not going to read the whole chapter. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women. So tell me what that means. He shall not regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. So who is that talking about? One name. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. Remember, he hired armies that they previously defeated. Now you got to go into the Apocrypha, you got to go into the 2 Maccabees, and you got to go into the Josephus as well. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land of gain. Now, the reason why he was pushing the Israelites to not be Israelites, he wanted them to serve a God, and not the God of Israel, not the God of gods. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him. And you should know who the king of the south is. And the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind with chariots. Not talking about the ships, it's talking about his armies, and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom. Now, right there, you can say, well, that proves he's not an Edomite. Remember, you had the Antipater's children were Edomites that worked with the Romans. The Romans were also Edomites. They just wouldn't call themselves Edomites. Like when we tell people, so-called Europeans that they're Edomites, they don't accept it because they don't even understand the concept of what an Edomite is. Edom and Moab and the chief of the children of Ammon. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly to make away many. Let me read that again. 44. but tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. That's a situation that took place. An old saying came out of this. 45. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain, yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. So what is that talking about? You got to see. You got people that say, "Well, we don't deal with the Apocrypha. We don't deal with the Maccabees like Vocab Malone." Well, guess what? You'll never understand this. That all this that I read, you'll from verse 32 all the way down to verse 45, you'll never understand it unless you go into the Apocrypha, unless you go into the Maccabees, unless you go into the Josephus. So now let's come up here. Like I said, I wanted these verses, but I'm going to start at 1. Also, I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. Now, what act did Darius do to get into power? Remember, he was a Mede. The Persians came up after him, right? It says, Daniel 11, verse 2. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. Darius was what? A Mede. Let's look it up. Let's see what it says about Darius. It said he was of Persian origins. Darius the Mede, the son of Ahasuerus, king of the Chaldees, who succeeded to the Babylonian kingdom on the death of Belshazzar, probably the same as Astyages, the last king of the Medes. Darius, the son of Hystaspes, the founder of the Perso-Aryan. By the way, the Aryans, the German Aryans, they got it from these people, the Persians. Dynasty 521 BC. Darius II or Darius III. You have more than one Darius. Darius II, Nothos Archus was king of Persia during the time of Nehemiah. Darius II is the most probable because he is mentioned by Nehemiah and ruled during the time of Nehemiah. Darius III, Kadamanos, was king of Persia during its last years at the time of Alexander the Greek and was his opponent. And it was Alexander that defeated this Darius. As the legend goes, that he ran away from Alexander's armies, and Alexander took his wife. That's in the secular history. It's obviously not in the scriptures. So these are great tools that the Most High gave us. The blue letter give you a lot of information. So now let's read the second verse. Daniel 11, verse 2. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. And the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia, because Grecia was a new power coming up. And they told Alexander, you're crazy to even think about fighting against the Medo-Persian Empire. Now, the movie 300, we all saw the movie 300. That's what it was all about. That's when the Persians was in power and the Greeks were coming up. Now that King Leonidas, the real hero of that movie was there was another king that had a naval. Basically, the 300 were that was a suicide mission. And they knew that. They said, you're going on the suicide mission. There's no way you can defeat these people, but you're gonna rough them up. And they showed you what happened in the movie, right? And Alexander wasn't even born at this time. Well, he might have been a kid at this time. I got to go through the timeline of history. But it says, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all, right? And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. So I asked, what does this mean? And a lot of brothers kind of wasn't sure, but maybe 15% of the hands went up, more hands went up on this one. And this is Alexander. It says, and I'm going to say this. Now, I read the last, 10 verses of this chapter. No part of this 11th chapter has anything to do with a future prophecy. This already took place. But you got Christians, well, that's the Antichrist. That's all they go through. They don't understand that's the Antichrist. And when he shall stand up, Alexander, and I'm going to show you, prove that his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the what? The 4 winds of heaven. 4, important number 4. And not to his posterity, which is his family members, nor according to his dominion, because it's going to be broken up. His dominion, he had a lot of land, man. He had Egypt, he had a lot of land, which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those, or even his family. So that's all I want to get into, right? So let me come right over here. And all of them are pretty right, pretty much say the same thing. Like I said, you can't rely on all these prophetic scriptures, because they go off. Like I said, the Bible Hub is either hit or miss, which shows you that the Most High is not dealing with them, but they do know some things. So let's see. So we're at the second verse. Let me come back over here. And now will I show thee the truth? Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be richer than them all, right? 3 kings in Persia, Cambyses, Pseudo, Smyrnus. Now, Smyrnus is the Greek way. The Greek records called him Smyrnus. His actual name was Bardia. So if you go to, actually, this was Cambyses II. There was another Cambyses before him. It's talking about Cambyses. They should have said Cambyses II. Smyrna is supposed to be Bardia. And Darius, Hystaspes, Assuerus, Artaxerxes, and Darius. Ezekiel 4, verse 6, 7 to 24. The Ahasuerus of Esther, during the time of Esther, is identified with Xerxes. Now in the movie 300, the tall guy with all the jewelry on him, the super tall guy with the bald head, at the end of the scene, that was Xerxes, which was Ahasuerus. So when you read, the account on Esther, that king was this guy. Both in Greek history and in scripture. So Smerdis is a Greek name. It's a Greek term of the individual Bardias. And in scripture, appearing proud, self-willed, careless of contravening Persian customs, amorous, facile, I hope I'm reading these right, and changeable, Daniel 11:2. Fourth, riches, which I read about, Xerxes, Ahasuerus. He was the one richer than they all. And I mentioned the others, right? I mentioned Cambyses II, Bardia, Darius, and then Xerxes. Fourth, riches against Greece, Xerxes, whose riches were proverbial. It says after his overthrow at Salamis, Persia is viewed as politically dead, though it had an existence. Therefore, Daniel 3:11, without noticing Xerxes' successor proceeds at once to Alexander, under whom first the third world kingdom, Grecia, which makes sense. When you go to Daniel, the second chapter, Daniel, the seventh chapter, that's considered what? The third world kingdom. Grecia reached its culmination and assumed as importance as to the people of God. Now remember, when Alexander came into power, he kissed Israel's ass. He didn't tax them or anything. He kissed their asses. Because the high priest in the white that he saw in a dream broke it down to him, said that he pointed and he went into the scrolls and showed him where he was at. And he this is the guy. You the fulfillment of this guy. Daniel 8, he showed him all Daniel. He showed him Daniel 11, Daniel 8, Daniel 2, and Daniel 7. It says, stir up all, 4 years was spent in gathering his army out of all parts of his vast empire, amounting to 2,641,000 men. That was a vast kingdom because remember, the Persian rulership was 127 provinces. That's more than twice the size of the United States. So now let's come back up here. Okay, this is the second verse. So this is the third. And this is pretty easy. What does it say in the third verse? And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. And you go to Cambridge Bible for School and Colleges, Alexander the Great. Fourth verse, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his uh, posterity, his family. Now, and you go into the secular history, I believe they killed them all off. Nor according to his dominion, because it was chopped up into four parts, which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others beside those. So what does that mean? We're going to close on this. I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to go to the point. You know what? Let me do this. Okay, there it is. It popped up. Okay, let me see here. Alexander's Empire. Okay. Toward the four winds of heaven, Daniel 8, verse 8. Alexander's empire, after his death, was broken up, and in the end of the four kingdoms of Cassandra, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. Ptolemy took Egypt. Seleucus took what they call Syria. And then Lysimachus and Cassandra, they took like Greece and Asia Minor. Right, it even says this about Alexander the Conqueror's youthful son by Roxanne. Roxanne, I want to be your man. That's old school hip hop. So let's deal with Roxanne, or Roxana. How are we going to do this? Let's see how we're going to do this. I don't need this no more. Okay, good. Boom. Roxana, Alexander the Greek's wife. Get a little information on that. Roxana was a Sogdian or a Bactrian princess whom Alexander the Greek married after defeating Darius. Remember, the secular history, go to it, it said that he ran. He didn't want to face Alexander, ruler of Achaemenid Empire, the Persians, and invading Persia. The exact date of her birth is unknown, but she was probably in her late, oh, wait a minute. She was in her late teens, 17, 18. Remember, they married him young. That was a custom. When you got women, you got them, you got them 12, 13, 11 years old. And Jake gets all messed up on it because you've been in this fucking place too long. That was the norm. At the time of her wedding to Alexander the Great, but I just want to get some more information. Because if I'm not mistaken, and they try to make her look like an Edomite. She wasn't. She didn't look like she was a dark. She looked more like this. She looked more like this. The Persians were dark. They had Negro features, but they whititized it to the Lamatized. She looked more like this, probably even darker. Remember them dark nations, they looked like Jet. A lot of them had woolly hair. They rocked braids, cornrows. Especially the Medes, the Persians. They were rocking cornrows, man. Who was Alexander's favorite? Who was Alexander's favorite wife? Now he played both sides of the fence. Roxana, also spelled Roxanne. Died in circa 310 BC. Amphipolis, Thrace, wife of Alexander the Great, the daughter of the Bactrian chief. So I get maybe it wasn't this guy's wife. Axyartes, she was captured. Wait a minute. She was captured. She was a spoil of war. And that's another thing that they did. That's why the Most High put in the law, Deuteronomy, 21:10. If you find a woman in battle, merely paraphrasing, you let her mourn for her parents for a month, 30 days, a month, the moon cycle. Take off her clothes of her captivity, put on the Israelite clothes, and she becomes your wife. She was captured. So she was a spoil of war. Alexander liked the way she looked, and he said, "You're going to be my wife." She was captured and married by Alexander in 327 during the conquest of Asia. So anyway, I think I covered everything. Okay, you know what? It says, I read part of this. So she was married in her teens. She was a spoil of war. Born Sugdia, I guess that's a place. Died Amphipolis, Greece. So she died in Greece. Children. So she had children by Alexander. Alexander the Alexander the Fourth of Macedon. Spouse Alexander the Great. So Alexander gave her children. Like I said, he was playing both sides of the fence. Then it mentions her parents, one of her parents, and one of her siblings. So don't get caught up that they it says Roxana, the light and dark sides of an Eastern beauty. Well, she didn't look like this. She wasn't an Edomite. She looked closer to this. And that was the garbs that they wore. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.